Welcome to Florida Gators Live 19. As it seems every week, we had another insane week of Gators content from basketball. Baseball had a good week, a sweep, so that's pretty good. And spring practice just started. Bunch of notes, bunch of takeaways. Tyler, how did you do this week? How are you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty well. Can't complain. Having fun with some basketball. Kind of been fun as we get into conference tournaments this week. I love watching the mid-major tournaments, so I've been enjoying that.
Go Gators beat Long Island University. It's not too far away, just half the year, unfortunately. But hey, we're getting there. We'll be there eventually. It'll sneak up on us. May take a while, but when we get there, it'll go by quickly as well. So don't want to rush.
I mean, hey, we're already at spring ball. Like we're making our way through the off season.
I mean, next thing you know, spring practice will be over, and we'll have another couple months until we get to fall practice.
Yeah, that's the real dark time. There's nothing really going on in like July, but for now we got some.
I mean, that's when recruiting takes up at least.
That's true. That's true, especially now.
I think July will give us a big eye on how things could be in the future for Billy Napier.
Mm-hmm.
Like more so than just on the field, but from recruiting.
Yeah.
Recruiting. That's really everything right there.
Yeah.
If we can get back to how we were. I'm ready for the preseason magazines to come out already.
Jackson, you're itching for the new Phil Steele already?
Yeah, I mean, hey, Spring Portal also should be opening. After I don't know when it opens actually.
Spring Portal? I don't think Spring Portal opens until at least some schools have finished spring ball.
April 16th.
April 16th.
It's April 16th through April 25th. And our game is what? When's the Gator spring game?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
I have April 12th. So 4 days after the spring game. So not really a big gap in between the spring game and the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And by the time the spring game's over, spring practice is over, we should have a good idea or a decent idea of what we need to hit in the transfer portal to fill out the team for going into the 2025 season.
And we'll have a better idea too, like how much we're even able to do. Like we'll see how much attrition there is of guys leaving after spring that maybe lose position battles and open up a couple spots. So, I think we'll find out what positions Florida's going to target and also like how active they have the flexibility to be.
I think the next portal is for people that are being cut from the team and gives them a chance to go find somewhere else to go. Yes,
sometimes.
But I mean, we can also just look at Florida. Elijah Badger, Ricky was also that spring portal, wasn't he?
I think so. You're definitely right, George. Like that is a lot of times what it is, but like there are certainly. I mean, first of all, position coaches will change between December and spring. So there's a lot of reasons a guy could leave. You are right, though, in the sense, like I am definitely more inherently skeptical of a guy transferring in the spring window for sure.
Jackson Johnson, the Florida spring game is on the same day as the A-Day game. I assume that's Alabama spring game.
Yeah, that's Bama. That's Bama spring game.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have an interesting QB battle. I have no clue who it's going to be right now. So... I mean, their game is definitely going to be more nationally televised because of that, and they're Alabama than ours will be. But I mean, hey, maybe DJ Lagway plays in.
I was about to say
the DJ
effect. Yeah.
I mean, and just a perfect transition. So spring practice has started, and Billy Napier came and gave his interview before they actually started practicing, and he just gave a list straight up of players who are injured and what they're dealing with, and there were 2 injury concerns with DJ Lagway. One, the leg still from when he got hurt against Georgia. The hamstring, right?
Yeah, hamstring.
The hamstring. And then another one dealing with his shoulder. And that injury with the shoulder is really where people are starting to question, okay, when did this injury take place? How did it happen? And why didn't we know about it? I mean, what are your thoughts on the injury?
Yeah, certainly was something that caught a lot of attention when the Gators started off spring ball because, like you said, it wasn't really something that we had heard about or knew was going to be an issue heading into spring ball. I believe DJ did have some sort of shoulder injury last fall in camp.
Yes.
I believe. Yeah,
it was. I can't remember who it was that reported it. I think it was like I can't remember who it was. I saw it tweeted, but he did hear of a Lagway shoulder injury going into the season.
Yeah. So that, that's certainly probably, I guess the thing that's a little concerning to me here is that whatever it was, it seems that it's probably been aggravated or something,
Yep.
right? It didn't look like his shoulder was limiting him at all this year. I mean,
no.
We saw kind of a different DJ Lagway when he came back after the Georgia game in terms of his mobility, but I don't think at any point it looked like he was, not getting enough power out of his throws or anything like that, or the accuracy took a hit. So, we'll see. I mean, I'm not concerned in the sense that like he wouldn't be dressing and doing anything if it was that serious, but at the same time, just how vague they've been is a little concerning to me. Yeah.
So
yeah,
Jackson Johnson is saying here, DJ Lagway's injury is a concern for the spring, but he should be 100% healthy by fall camp or week 3 against LSU. I think the main concern here is if this is the same injury that has been nagging him since the preseason of the 2024 football season, is this just something they can't figure out what it is? And it's like, maybe it stops him from reaching his full potential in his time here. Because they did say Lagway didn't have any surgeries. So there is that. But I think it was Mark Scott, right? Is that who it was who tweeted?
Mark Long?
Mark Long, sorry, yeah. Mark Long, who tweeted something fishy something's weird here. Because they're not really revealing how the injury happened. They're saying he's injured, but he still is practicing. He's just not throwing, which for a QB, throwing is half of the job there. So you would wish that he could throw. I mean, I think a lot of it for Lagway is also going to be some mental learning stuff than rather his arm. I mean, we know he has all the arm talent in the world, so you can say what he needs to practice on that. But if it is something that just isn't going to stop him from playing, and I mean, if he's playing like he did at the end of last year, we're playing like a top 15, top maybe 10 team in the country. But it's just something that could stop him from being that much better.
Yeah, again, it's just like, because I mean, a guy being banged up in spring ball is not anything out of the ordinary. I mean, we're still not that far removed from the end of the season. Like, there's guys still dealing with lingering stuff. I'm sure DJ's hamstring's probably not completely 100% yet right now, or at least it might not be. But again, it's just like, what happened? Was it a tweak? Did something happen between now and the end of the season? Was he playing, through shoulder pain or something along those lines during the season? I mean, again, it certainly didn't look like it. I don't know. It's just, I think what you kind of articulated is like the worst case scenario here. It's kind of what everyone's afraid of, is like, what if this is something lingering that they can't quite figure out how to get to go away? I mean, I don't think there's any reason right now to believe that's what's happening, but I agree, until we get a little bit more clarity and transparency from the staff on what exactly is going on there, it's going to be a concern. I mean, he's the face of this entire operation. It all kind of rests on DJ's shoulders here. So, wow, didn't even mean it that way, but I guess it does literally all rest on DJ's shoulders here.
Oh, wow, yeah. I think another thing that's going along with the Lagway injury is some of the injuries to other players. I mean, you're looking at Jamari Lyons, who was injured in last fall. He did start practicing. There has been footage of Jamari Lyons practicing, and I think he's good to go. I think a lot of what's happening is fans just being a little too concerned. I mean, we probably had one of our worst injury seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, in my time of being a fan, I mean, you don't want to count when we had players suspended back in 2017 or 2016. It was 2017, right? 17. So I don't really count that, but I can't really recall of a time where Florida had that many big injuries happen.
2013 is the one that comes to mind. It was comical in 2013. Like, the entire defense got hurt. The starter and backup quarterback got hurt. It was rough.
Yeah, right there. I mean, really, this is the kind of point where you're making. Even if he's 95% healthy, he will still be lethal. I mean, that's what we kind of think is really going to happen there.
And I feel like if Florida was playing Long Island tomorrow, I'm not sure they would be holding DJ out. I mean, I'm not saying that because I know anything. You're going to be overly cautious with a guy like DJ Lagway if he's got anything going on at all in the spring.
I never thought about that. Like, if we were playing the season today, because he's not throwing the ball right now.
Yeah.
Or I don't know when he will be. I mean, I'm hoping by the time we get to the spring game, he does play, because he just adds so much more excitement. I mean, it's going to be cool seeing everybody else, the transfers of freshmen, which we'll get onto later, and new QBs and everything will be cool. But I mean, really, everyone's going there not everyone's going there only because of Lagway, but Lagway adds another 50% more excitement to the game than what would it be.
Conservatively 50%, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably still go if Lagway wasn't playing, but Lagway's playing makes me just that much more excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll just see how it progresses. I mean, I think if he's throwing in the spring game and he's a full part, I mean, obviously, like QBs are non-contact in the spring game anyway. Assuming that if he's playing like he normally would be, I would say at that point, I'm not really concerned. And like Michael said, like I'm not super concerned even if he's slightly limited entering the year because he has arm strength to spare. Like it's DJ Lagway losing a little bit of power there is not going to be debilitating. You just want to see him obviously be 100% and a little concerning that it's been a couple different things for him so far.
And like we talked about, if it is that nagging injury from last fall, I mean, we still saw him throw deep balls in week 2 against Stanford.
Yeah.
I mean, the passes he was making almost said Pearsall, Elijah Badger, like those were passes no one else on the roster could make. So like his 95% is still better than any QBs we've probably had since like Felipe Franks.
Yeah, it's like to me, it's like either it's at the same level as it was during the season and they're just being overly cautious, or something has happened since the season to re-aggravate it, which obviously would be much worse. So hopefully it's the former. Yeah.
Gotta agree with you here, Michael. We're going to pray for 100%. All right. Let's do this. Connect with the voice of college football on Twitter and Instagram. Check out our latest takes, ratings, and rankings. I will post the links to the Instagram and to the Twitter in chat. They are both the same names on both the platforms. I saw a list of, I think, the top 10 QBs that they had in college football. I can't remember who it was that made it. I think they had Lagway 9th. If Lagway is 9th going into the season or at the end of the season, what do you think our potential, like our maximum potential is? If Lagway's the 9th best QB?
I think it could still be pretty high because, to be honest, like I'm not sure Lagway, even at his best in this offense, is going to produce enough that like national people would necessarily put him near the very, very top of the list. So I guess what I'm getting at is I think Lagway could be very, very good, but not enough to like not productive enough to crack the top 5. But within this system, that would probably be good enough for Florida to be successful. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, but I counter with we're also going to be playing national games 8 times this season. I mean, like outside of our 2 openers, we're going to be playing big time games to where even if he's only putting up 200 yards compared to what he could have been doing like 300, and we win those games, that 200 yards will feel like 300.
Yeah, maybe, but that's not really how people like. I feel like when people make those lists, a lot of it's just based on production. I mean, certainly, like this has been my take on like DJ with the Heisman, like being as like a Heisman contender. Because my concern is not like is he a talented enough player to do that? It's just I just DJ Lagway throw for 4,000 yards in this offense. Like I don't know. Like I'd be kind of surprised, but I'm not saying he can't. It's just does Billy try to run an offense like that? You know.
I think you can also, I mean, look at Travis Hunter. He won the Biletnikoff, if I'm not mistaken. His stats weren't better than Teratola McMillan. I mean, he was on a good football. I mean, an 8-win. They won 8 games, right? I think they went 8-4.
I think maybe 9 with a bowl.
Maybe 9.
Yeah, I think 8. I think 8 in the regular season. They won 8. Maybe they won. They might have gone 9-3. Honestly,
they may have. I can't remember. But you still had Travis Hunter, who didn't even have the best wide receiver stats, win the Heisman because I mean he's nationally relevant. Had some big moments, so you could see that with Lagway. And I do think if like Florida's winning those 10 games and it's those big time moments by Lagway that wins them and not his endless yards throughout the middle of the game, then I think you'll still see people rank him highly.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a huge part, like even if he's leading game-winning drives, then yeah, sure. But like, I guess what I'm getting at is if he's just doing his thing, taking care of the ball, making nice plays, but it's Florida running for 250 yards every game, like, which they might be able to do. I mean, So if it's something like that, he probably won't be that high on the list, but that doesn't mean that Florida hasn't had a very successful offensive season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, going back on the DJ Lagway health issue, Florida should have one of the best offensive lines in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Lagway was on RG3's talk show podcast, and he was saying he thinks we're going to have the best offensive line in college football. I mean, obviously, it's talk. Every player is going to say that. But, I mean, we have reason to believe it, returning 4 or 5 starters from already a really good offensive line. And that new replacement is going to be either like Bryce Levette, who was actually, let's get into it now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some early spring practice thoughts. Just continuing the right tackle position. It was announced that going into spring, Bryce Levette is the starter. Not necessarily a surprise, maybe a little unexpected, because I thought we would keep him inside. Yeah. But I mean, I think he got settled in the Tulane Bowl game. Like early on, you could see some struggle. Maybe you could play more of the right guard, maybe not. But you saw him settle down. The offensive line played better in the second half of that Tulane game, to where you can have the argument for Bryce Levette. Other names that were mentioned fighting for the job: Caden Jones, former 4-star, Devin Manuel, experienced offensive tackle from Arkansas. I think he took a red shirt this past season. And Fletcher Westfall, the higher rated guy that we talked a lot about, especially after the Tulane game.
Yeah, I'm glad you addressed that, because I was going to ask you how surprised you were, because I mean, both of us, I think, thought there was a pretty high possibility that Bryce Levette could earn a starting spot on this offensive line. Like, you've both been pretty bullish on the possibility of something like that happening. I'm not sure either of us really thought it would be at right tackle. I think we both kind of thought he could compete with Damian George potentially, or even Najee Harris for one of the guard spots.
I didn't think Levette could really. I mean, he could fight for a starting spot. I've been high on Levette since the Miami game. I mean, I've talked about Levette a lot. I don't know if he could beat out George. I don't think he beat out George. I think George is really good at right guard. I think I said maybe Harris, but still, I don't know if he'll beat him out. I mean, he could. They're not perfect players. They're not first-round projected picks or anything like that. They're not All-American like Jake Slaughter was. They're not Austin Barber, who's getting first-round projected picks by some people. So he could, but I think it would be a shock to me if he was.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also would say I'm not going to like completely rule out that they might target a tackle in the portal in the second round. Like, I think maybe outside of defensive tackle, it's probably the position I would say they're most likely to try to find someone for, or at least someone who can compete. But I mean, I'm curious to see how this all progresses in spring, because they didn't choose to replace Brandon Crenshaw Dixon with someone in the portal. And so you're really going to see, because I mean, Florida's offensive line recruiting hasn't exactly been like up to, from a rankings perspective, up to where we'd want it to be. Seems like the development's been pretty solid. I mean, we're really going to find out, because one of these tackles probably, unless they add someone else, the starting tackle is probably going to be someone that's young and homegrown. So, we're going to really find out, I think. But so it's like one of those things where, is Levette getting first team reps to start spring? Like, is that a sign that, these guys are developing nicely? Or is it a sign that, a guy like Fletcher Westfall, who we thought maybe could take that job, hasn't emerged? That's just kind of one of those things I don't think we know yet. And we'll just have to kind of see how the battle progresses in spring and beyond.
One benefit Billy does get this year that he hasn't had any other season is that the first 2 games are going to be cupcake games.
Yeah.
So we can try out different players. Like, I mean, we saw it this year where we played Austin Barber, Devin Manuel a bunch, Cam Waits a bunch. Crenshaw Dixon didn't even start the season, ends up being a guy who could be drafted this year. So a lot will change between today and by the time we get to LSU, is when really the season does begin. I think. Yeah,
absolutely.
So how I wanted to start the segment, but we kind of led into it perfectly talking about right tackle. When the day came on Thursday, the first thing I looked at was the spring roster. The first thing that caught my eye, I messaged you about it, was Stephon Shivers. Nose tackle, true freshman coming in, listed at 399 pounds. Now, I believe 247 had him listed at 265 coming out of high school. He's either put a lot of weight on in a couple months, or 247 hasn't updated in a while.
Yeah.
The difference between him and what we saw at Des Watson really fluctuated from 425 to what,
449. 449 is where he topped out at on the roster this year.
So yeah, 449. So he's not as big as Des Watson was, but I think the difference with Shivers is we've seen a lot of his weight be muscle before really putting on the weight to get bigger for nose tackle. Mm-hmm. So I do think there could be a difference in the upside. Where Des Watson, he's going to be a great space filler. I mean, Watson was what, 6'6", 449?
6'5", I believe, I think, but yeah.
6'5", so.
Yeah.
But he's not going to really be making elite level plays. While with Shivers, I think he's 6'4", 6'5", maybe.
I thought 6'3". I thought 6'4" or 6'3". I
so probably 6'4". 247 has Shivers listed at 6'4", 399 now. Okay, so yeah, 6'4", 399. So more potential to be a playmaker rather than just a play stuffer, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think, like, when you talk about, like, Des Watson, I think it was, like, both a positive and a negative with him, like, his size, because, like, it kind of just made him a bit of a one-trick pony, which he was pretty solid at. I mean, managed to earn a role in the rotation. I would agree, though. I think Shivers has a higher ceiling, and I think Shivers, I mean, because we've talked about that, that opening there at nose tackle, like, he has a path to see the field this year. I mean, you don't see it a ton for defensive tackles, but you don't see a lot of guys come in at defensive tackle at 399, or at least come in at 399 that don't have a lot of like body transformation they need to do. That, like, I don't think that's a lot of, like, baby fat for Stephon Shivers. I think that's I think he's pretty built dude.
Yeah, what Michael Dixon's saying, he has good feet. He can move. We saw some drills of his that was posted with him practicing with Gerald Chapman, the defensive line coach. So he's someone that I was already pretty excited about coming into Florida, but now is someone that we can look at and be like, okay, he might actually be able to make an early impact. I think the other thing worth a note, we talked about it a little bit earlier with the injury situation, was Damari Lyons actually practicing. I mean, practicing a little bit isn't the same as being 100% ready to go. But if he's already practicing March 9th, I would be shocked if he's not ready to go by September 1st, which I think is huge, because he was someone that we was talked about coming into this season as someone who's going to be a really good backup to Cam Jackson, have a chance to show out even more than what he had done in 2023. So I think getting him time, not just to get healthy, but time to also continue working on his game, it does secure my thought about the nose tackle position a lot more.
Yeah. It was an ACL for Lyons, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and it was an ACL in fall camp, correct? It was before the season started?
Yeah, I was in fall camp, like week 1 or 2 of fall camp.
Yeah, so he should be fine by this fall camp, like assuming no setbacks. And the fact that he's like suiting up and stuff for spring is a good sign. I mean, I think defensive tackle to me is like very similar to the right tackle position, in the sense that it's like, when you look at the roster right now, it looks like probably one of the biggest holes, but it's not like there's no options there. It's just you don't have the proven experience. Maybe a guy like Damari Lyons, like, is just ready. And if he is, like, if he can come in and be like at least a replacement level player there, I think that would probably change sort of the outlook that you and I discussed about the position when we did the, positional grades heading into spring ball. I think we'd maybe look at that a little bit differently if, Lyons is like a bona fide, quality starter.
Yeah, Kenny Hawthorne, do you think Big Dez gets a shot in the NFL?
No,
I'm sorry.
No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think he'll be the next Vince Wilfork, but bigger.
And he's not good enough at what he does to counter the fact that, like, you just can't really be that effective. And also, I don't know if Vince Wilfork could play at that size in today's NFL.
Yeah. All right, so you got anything else to say on the D-line? I mean, Banks, we already know we're getting with him. Yeah. Bourreau was talked up a little bit. Napier said he really liked what he saw from Bourreau last season.
Did you hear anything on, like, Asare? Any notes there? I haven't really seen anything from him. I haven't
heard anything from here, no.
I was just curious.
We already talked about Lagway with the QB room. Is there anything you want to discuss? I think I've seen a little bit from Tramel Jones that I really like. that maybe he could. I mean, I don't think he'll pass Harrison Bailey unless a situation happens that we talked about a couple weeks ago, where it's a long, like Lagway gets injured early and Tramel's just a higher ceiling than Bailey. But I don't think he'll pass Bailey for like the true backup role.
Especially because you want to redshirt him because if this all goes to plan with Billy Napier and DJ Lagway, DJ's here. DJ has another year after this. So it's not even like you don't care if Tramel burns that red shirt because he's going to have to come in and start next year. Like that's not even, there's no real rush with him. I mean, I am curious to see Harrison Bailey just because, for a guy who's played five years of college football at this point, we haven't really seen a ton of him. So, be curious to see what he looks like. But I mean, yeah, aside from that, like, I'll be honest, like the quarterback room is just not particularly interesting when DJ Lagway is not throwing the ball.
Hey, it could be with Tramel Jones.
Yeah, it could be.
I saw some nice deep balls from him that really shook. So I didn't think he had that much arm strength.
Yeah, the only upside to like DJ potentially not being able to throw in the spring game would mean that we'd be able to see a lot more of Tramel Jones. That would be the only upside.
Yeah. All right. I think the two positions that have generated the most excitement so far in the 2 days of practice we've had on Thursday and Saturday have been wide receiver and corner. Shocker, Florida produces a lot of athletic, quick guys that play receiver and corner. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's curve here. Let's talk about the one you've been kind of on more than anyone, Nahshon.
Okay, the wide receiver room.
Yeah. You've been like riding for him. Everyone's talking about the 5 stars, but he's kind of been your guy, I feel like.
Well, I gotta admit, I think Dallas Wilson right now has been the most impressive of them all. Yeah, I feel like we've kind of underlooked it a bit because like he was the 5-star, and we're like, oh, it usually isn't the top guy. It's probably like the second or third guy that ends up breaking out. I feel like Dallas Wilson looks different right now in those early practices. Yeah. My biggest questions about him were how fast is he and his footwork, route running. I mean, there's been a lot of clips of the receivers practicing their footwork. Dallas Wilson might be the best receiver on this roster already from a footwork. Nah, I mean, they did a comparison I saw of Dallas Wilson and Jermichael Sturdivant. And Wilson just looks so much twitchier, so much quicker. They're both listed. Let's see. Sturdivant 6'2.5", 216, and number 6, Dallas Wilson 6'3", 209. So what Wilson does have a bit more size on him, which honestly makes it a bit more shocking just how quick Dallas Wilson looks with that footwork. If he can actually catch the football, I mean, I'm thinking of backtracking a bit and just picking Dallas Wilson as that breakout receiver.
Well, so like what I will say is like the drills that we're seeing right now are not going to tell you anything about a guy's like route running ability, about how good he is, like at the, coming off the line, about how his hands are. But I will give you this, like when you see Dallas Wilson out there, and I'm not saying he's going to be as good as these guys. I'm just saying that when you see him, he looks like in the same way as like a Ryan Williams or a Jeremiah Smith. Like he's a true freshman who from day one looks like he belongs out there. Like there's nothing, you don't look at him and be like, that guy's a year away from being an SEC receiver. Like now he looks like an SEC receiver right now.
You see that there's just that difference. Like you can have a really good player on a G5 team. They can come be a solid player in the SEC. You can see the difference between that and the 5-star level talent that Dallas Wilson is. Yeah. He just has that next level to him.
It's been so long since Florida's had a guy like that. Yeah.
And a true receiver, not a gadget guy. I mean, Vernell Brown's looked good. He's looked quick and twitchy and everything. Like he was a 5-star, obviously, but that 5'11" shorter status. So not really a jump ball type of guy or true number 1 wide receiver threat like Dallas Wilson is. Because, I mean, we've had good receivers, too. Like, Ricky Pearsall was a first-round draft pick. I mean, Elijah Badger and Chimere Dike are going to be first-round draft... Or not first-round. They're likely both going to be NFL draft picks.
Yeah.
So, and I think Wilson he looks like he has that next level to him.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's really hard to imagine this guy just, like, red shirts this year and doesn't have more and only has, like, 4 catches. Like, it's really hard to see that happening. Personally, like, I mean, again, we'll see. I'd really like to see him in the spring game, hopefully with DJ Lagway, because you just don't know how it's going to translate. But I mean, all three of these freshman receivers to me look like they're capable of potentially impacting on day one. Obviously, Dallas looks them. Yeah, that's what I said. Michael said that too. Yeah, like Vernell looks like he's maybe ready to go too. Like these guys, and even Nahshon, I think like all these guys look good for day one SEC receivers.
I mean, yeah, they all do. I mean, we've heard talking about it. I mean, Russ Callaway, I think, recently said they're working on getting more 4 and 5 man rotate or wide receiver lineups out there. We haven't seen it much or really at all under Napier, but I think now that we have so much high level wide receiver talent, you just got to put them on the field, especially when you compare it to the tight end room. I'm sorry, I don't really want to see Hayden Hansen out there lined up with Caleb Rios when I can see maybe the one tight end Hayden Hansen or Amir Jackson. Honestly, put Amir out there, line him up next to Jermichael Sturdivant, Trey Wilson, Aiden Mizell, one of the 3 freshman receivers. That's exciting right there.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't hate the idea of like what they've been doing with trying to like, focus on 12 personnel. Like that's fine. A lot of teams have success doing that, but Florida doesn't really have the personnel to do that because they haven't had the tight ends. So, I mean, to me, like I've been very critical of Billy's offense, but like, I mean, if they're going to reverse engineer the kind of offense I want by running more spread and then going with giving an air raid guy and Russ Callaway more input, like I would have rather they just hired a normal OC to change the scheme. But I mean, if they're willing to, go 3-4 wide and do all that and throw the ball more, like, okay, let's ride.
I think you also have to put some effort into like the familiarity that Lagway will have with keeping the same OC or.
Yeah, just to clarify, Michael, he is not calling plays. Billy is still calling plays
at an official full-time level. I've heard Callaway calls some plays still. That's why.
Well, play calling's collaborative. I mean, I don't think play calling for anyone is like one person dictating everything, but like I don't really expect there to be a significant difference in how play calling works this season. I mean, maybe you've heard something to the other effect, but
yeah, George, right here. I'm excited. I can't wait. There's just so much young talent. I mean, the wide receiver room. It's kind of surreal because like we haven't really had that in so long. I mean, we had a good receiver room back in 2019. I mean, 2020, obviously, if you count like Kyle Pitts and tight ends, it was a really good receiving room, but that was from a different perspective of actually having pass catcher and true wide receivers. And you go back to 2019 when we had Van Jefferson, Trevon Grimes, Tyree Cleveland, Freddie Swain, Josh Hammond. Like those were good wide receivers. And when you add them all up, it equates to probably a top 5 wide receiver room in the SEC. But now we're looking to have that with maybe guys like Sturdivant, Trey Wilson, Dallas Wilson, Vernell, Mizell, like guys that could turn it up a notch to that top 2 level room in the SEC.
Yeah, like I think the big key here is like all those guys that you mentioned back in like 2019, like those were all good players, but they were all sort of limited in some, like none of them were at an elite level relative to college football. And I'm not saying any of these guys are, but certainly they have the potential to be.
Yep. Hey, we had a Kadarius Toney, first round draft pick.
Yeah, that's true. And what's funny is Kadarius Toney of all the guys on that team was like the lowest rated. Like Trayvon Grimes was a 5-star. But Kadarius Toney was like not even that. He was he was a
high 3-star
quarterback. Yeah, but he was a high 3-star as like a quarterback, as an athlete.
I know Nick Saban really wanted Kadarius Toney as well. Like,
but I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if he was getting recruited to be like a straight up receiver by a lot of teams. Like, I'm not even sure McElwain was recruiting him to do that.
All right, yeah. Getting back on track here. I think I've also seen some good stuff from Sturdivant. Like, he's fast, he's tall, he can catch the football. Yeah. He's going to be someone that you also give him some of that Billy Gonzalez development. He can be that guy. That's the wide receiver 1. I'm starting to feel a bit more confident that he's going to be that wide receiver 1. Like Trey Wilson might get the most targets because of his position and the way he plays. He might get those 10 targets a game, but Sturdivant can get 5 and go for 100 yards, while Trey Wilson can get 10 and go for like 60.
Yeah, I think Sturdivant fills a really important role here because, like, I like the talent here, but you really needed a guy like that in the portal. I think this offseason, I think that really completes it. And, like, even if you've got these young guys that can step up, I think Sturdivant's still poised to have, like, I would probably be willing to bet. I might be willing to bet that Sturdivant's the leading receiver. Between the fact that Trey maybe hasn't been able, like maybe won't be able to play every game, or just we'll have a quiet game where he gets keyed in on. I wouldn't be surprised if Sturdivant ends up being the leading receiver.
Yeah, I mean we've also seen Trey route run a little bit in the spring so far. So obviously only been 2 practices. Saw it a little bit this year. I mean the Kentucky game, we had a deep ball catch. So I think if he's healthy, we might see a good bit of it. I mean, if we are doing this 4 and 5 wide, like Callaway said, then we'll definitely see Trey Wilson run some actual routes.
Yeah.
All right, and then I think we need to get into the defensive back room. I think.
Sorry, before we move on, one more note on the receivers. Did we talk about? We didn't talk about. I don't think Mizell missing practice. Mizell wasn't there, right?
I did not even see that.
Yeah, Mizell was not at practice. I guess today or yesterday, whenever the last practice was.
Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think there's so yesterday. I don't think a ton of clarity on what that was about. I'm not sure it's like serious or anything, but yeah, he was held out apparently.
I did see Mizell lost some weight, which is not good. He was already a smaller wide receiver for the SEC. But let's see, latest Ada Mizell. I'm not really seeing anything. Although I did just see something interesting bring up real quick about special teams. The players who were working in the return game were Trey Wilson. I doubt we see him return with his injury concerns. Tank Hawkins, someone we both mentioned on our previews. Jaden Ball, someone we also mentioned because he returned last year. But now that he's a starter, I doubt we see it. Jacoby Jackson, we mentioned him as well as maybe replacing Ball. Jermichael Sturdivant, I doubt we see again starters. Ada Mizell, maybe, but if you see with these injuries. Vernell Brown III, that's the one I could see really returning. Duke Clark, walk on. Dallas Wilson, I don't know if he's much of a return man. Maybe maybe he has really good hands, which, again, we talk about if he has really good hands already, he's going to be a good receiver day one. Nashawn Montgomery, someone I could see. DeBron Hampton. This is actually someone I've seen a lot about for a walk-on. He was teammates with DJ Lagway at where do you play high school at? I just completely forgot. In Texas. Willis. Yep, Willis High School. He's a walk-on from he played with Lagway at Willis. Someone who's very athletic, another like slot type of guy. But I think he's someone that we have so much talent he probably won't play here. But maybe we see him go transfer to a lower level and be a pretty good player for someone like maybe in Texas or Florida, like a USF or a Texas State. Which I think would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah. Just real quick, too, to circle back, I have it right here. According to Graham Hall, Aiden Mizell did not go through drills on Saturday. He was in the weight room with the other guys who were limited during spring ball.
Okay.
And also, Khalil Jackson was apparently non-contact and didn't do routes on air. So, couple guys not fully participating in receiver.
All right, so now let's get into that defensive back room. I really don't know if there's been too much talk about it, but one guy. There's been insane hype. I mean, it's Cormani McClain. It's been said he's put on 20 pounds since joining Florida. I mean, that's just... When he came to Florida, a lot of people, including myself, said if he can put on weight, he's someone that can reach that 5-star status he was out of high school. That's always been his main problem. He's just too skinny. We saw it this past season. Got bullied by Georgia's receivers. Got bullied by Texas. I mean, he had those shining moments against Kentucky, less physical moments, but you saw that athleticism and reach that he has. But now we're starting to see him actually get that size on him that you need to play defensive back at the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly looks like he's gained 20 pounds. When you look at him, he definitely looks like he's bulked up a lot. I mean, like, we'll see. I mean, I think maybe not skeptical is not the right word, but I'm just kind of in a, like, we'll see what happens there. I mean, I think it would be huge because we've talked a lot about the DB depth not being in a great spot, especially at corner. I mean, if Cormani is a guy who is capable of starting like plug and play, that changes the calculus there pretty significantly. You know, so I mean, like I'd love to see that. I think that would be that would maybe, aside from a guy like Lyons becoming a really good defensive tackle or something,
Absolutely.
like that could be maybe the biggest X factor this defense could have, is if they have like another really reliable starting caliber corner in Cormani McClain.
I think also something worth of note, it's not the fact that Cormani's just put on that 20 pounds. It's also the fact that they're saying he's also like locking down. He's bringing lockdown in coverage. So we know he can actually cover and he's not just a 5-star that was like, oh, if he puts the weight on and then he still can't play well. But the fact that he's put the weight on and it seems like he's still going to have that speed and athleticism to be that first round draft pick. I mean, that's the potential of Cormani, a top 10 draft pick. I mean, he has everything you need to be an NFL corner. I mean, there's no debate about that.
Yeah, I mean, the talent's there. I don't think the talent has ever been debated here.
Ultra Gator saying, I think Cormani is primed to have a breakout year, been doing things the right way. It's a redemption story. I mean, yeah, it really is the redemption story. Was he kicked from Colorado or was it like a mutual splitting? I can't remember.
I think, well, I think it was more of a mutual splitting, but like it, I mean, Dion was pretty public. I mean, Dion, like basically in press conferences last year or 2023 was like saying that he wasn't showing up to meetings, wasn't doing his preparation. Like, I mean, he was pretty publicly like critical of Cormani. So like, I don't know if he was kicked off, but like, I don't think I didn't get the impression he was in particularly good standing at Colorado.
No. Yeah, that's what I was thinking there. So it's really nice to see he was one of the 3, like first, he won one of the awards, or he was like top 3. I don't know if you saw the graphic for it. I mean, it's whatever, but you being one of the top 3 players in the first spring practice for somebody that has been had such a low that he's had, it's nice to see him actually rise to the top a little bit.
Especially because you see it with a lot of guys. Like you see a lot of guys in similar positions where it just doesn't work out and they get multiple chances and it's kind of just the same thing over and over again. And that's why, like, when he showed up as a preferred walk-on, I was like, yeah, okay, we'll see what happens. Like, not really putting any credence into it one way or the other. I mean, the fact that he's still here and still getting these opportunities, I think speaks for the fact that he's been doing it the right way, like Ultra Gator said.
Yeah. So, I mean, the rest of corners and safeties, I hate this saying, the DB room, I feel like we haven't really heard too much about. I mean, it's hard to tell with corners because you don't really know how good they can be until they actually line in someone. I mean, because like a receiver, you can see their footwork. You can see like, okay, that should translate when in coverage. But like, obviously it's not a guarantee. But with the corner, again, not much you can say because they're not really being too physical in practice yet. I would suspect they won't really do that until much later in practice. So I don't know if there's anyone else you've heard anything about. Jamrier Grimesley is now Jamrock Grimesley. That's something interesting to look at, but
nice.
Nothing else that I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll just say that Bryce Thornton was one of the guys who is not completely like who's been limited in camp. So like even that makes it even harder at safety because like, I mean, right now I think we'd probably slot him in as a likely day 1 starter.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the team hit the field in a real football game. I don't know if we're including the spring practice there. I mean, the spring game.
I'm assuming he will. I'm assuming the real qualifier meant that he was not.
Yeah. Hey, I'm still pumped for it. So I think the next position worth of note is the edge position, because I think there was a lot of talk here, specifically LJ McCray. We talked about it. It's a possibility. It's now confirmed. He has moved to the jack position from the F. He can still play the F, but he's now solely focusing on the jack. We talked about it. That F position does have really good two deep with Tyreek Sapp and Cam James. So it makes sense for someone with McCray's potential to kind of try to get earlier playing time, as well as the fact that he has that explosiveness to come off the edge and be a elite edge rusher that we might not have right now. We might have some good ones. Like Gums, we talked about, is probably going to play a good bit there as well, but he doesn't have that same potential or same explosiveness that you would see from LJ McCray. So I just want to talk about it. What's your opinion on LJ moving to F?
Yeah,
Or
you moving
Jack,
to
sorry.
Jack. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that it makes a lot of sense for a few reasons because, like, first of all, like you said, there's a lot of opportunities there this year, and I mean, like, I think it gives him the opportunity to maximize his skill set. I mean, like, ultimately, that's kind of the position you have in mind when you land a 5-star guy like that. You kind of hope that he can become that elite edge rusher. We'll see if he can, but I mean, I think it gives Florida the potential there that they haven't really had because they haven't had that. I mean, it's been a while since Florida's had like that elite guy coming off the edge. So certainly exciting to me there. And like, I think,
hey, Princely is going to be a 1st-round draft pick or 2nd-round draft pick.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? There you go. But a lot of people are pretty happy to see him gone, which I didn't exactly agree with, but it's in the past. We'll leave
we still won. We still won.
Yeah. We still won. No, yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I think that, shows development on his part. I mean, I think he's another guy that, like, I think a lot of the success this year hinges on if they can keep the defense playing at the level it was at the end of last season, even with everything they've lost. Well, if he's a guy that's emerging and becoming like a good quality edge rusher, then I think like those are the kind of things that are going to happen for that to be the case.
Ultra Gator. I love they eliminated the number 1 jersey on defense. I think it will make them more unified. Tyreek Sapp was talking about it, how it's just a number. It doesn't actually signify how good the player is. I mean, who were number 1 last year?
Boone, right?
Did Justice Boone wear number 1 last year? Wow. That sounds right. But I'm double checking real quick because Justice Boone were number 1. Yeah, he did. So yeah, I mean, I like Sapp, who's probably the team captain on the defense at this point, coming out and saying it just doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, don't forget Antoine Powell Ryland.
Yeah, that one. Sometimes a guy leaves and like has success, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. That one didn't really see that one coming, to be honest with you.
Yep. I think the other thing worth talking about on that edge group, Jaden Woods. It's just like every time we hear him talk about the edge, there is so much praise about his work ethic, how much he's putting in his athleticism. I mean, I'm starting to think that he really was as underrated in the scouts rankings as I thought he was. Because I don't know how much he's going to be a day 1 impact, especially with LJ now moving to edge. So there's more depth, or moving to Jack. There's more depth there. But I'm really starting to like. I think he's already up to 240 pounds, which LJ McCray. Let me get these numbers here. LJ is 6'6", 264, moving to F or Jack. I don't know. I keep getting confused. Oh, wait, nope. I didn't hit go. That's 2024. All right. So now when you look at the edge group here, you have LJ, who's 6'6", 267, and you have, where's he at? Jaden Woods, 6'3", 240. So, I mean, when you add in the fact that he's 3 inches shorter, 240 pounds already. I mean, he's already getting up there to that SEC day 1 ready body.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm not sure he's a guy that you're going to see like get a ton of snaps this season, but like if he can work his way into being a guy who's like in the rotation at all, I think that is a huge success for the Gators.
And I think I see where LJ McCray's spot's being filled from his freshman season. Jalen Wiggins, 6'4.5". How much do you think he weighs?
Oh, man.
There was also some good talk from Billy Napier about Jalen Wiggins as well.
Was he like 260, 270?
Yeah, 270.
Okay.
I mean, Tyler Miles is putting in some work. I don't want to. I think Mark Hoke has actually gone back to Louisiana now. Good riddance. I mean, it seems like what Tyler Miles is doing here. I mean, we'll see how the season plays out, but from the fact that we're looking at Cormani McClain putting on all that weight, the receivers like Vernell Brown, Nashawn, and Wilson, they're already looking pretty good size wise, and you have these defensive ends and defensive linemen and edge rushers already looking like true freshman guys that already have the size to play in the SEC. I mean, big credit to Tyler Miles.
Yeah, like there have been some lingering issues throughout the Billy era that haven't exactly gotten addressed. I don't think this is one of them anymore. I think the strength program seems to be in a pretty good spot.
Well, Ultra Gator is saying here, Jaden Woods has been a tear in the weight room. I heard that's also what I heard. I heard he's been leading things in that weight room. So, getting a guy that has the athleticism to be a really good player, but now he also has that the mentality to be a leader in the weight room. That's someone that's going to come here and do really good things. Inside linebackers have, I mean, we all know how good this room is, how talented it is.
Yeah.
I think main talking points I have, Aaron Childs, 6'2.5", 241 pounds. I mean, when you compare that to Miles Graham, who's 6.75, 6 3/4, 227, and Grayson Howard, who's 6'4", 232. Childs, again, is getting pretty big. I think that can add up to him playing more Sam. But we know he does have good athleticism to where he can still draw it back in pass coverage. We talked about it, I think, a couple weeks ago. More talented, more athletic George Gums is kind of a lot what we're seeing from Aaron Childs. So that makes me happy.
Yeah, this is just a position group on the field where, like, really maybe the only position group like this on the field where it's like almost an embarrassment of riches. It's like, I don't know how they're going to put this rotation together, but that's a good thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Ultra Gator saying here, I would like to know which team has better linebackers than Florida.
Maybe, I mean, on a 2-deep level, certainly. I'm not sure there is another one.
Yeah, we need to see how the young players like Grayson Howard, if he can still keep up playing like how he was last year, and Miles Graham's development. If we can see them actually be like those tier 1 linebackers, then maybe we can argue Florida does have the best. The depth, again, like you said, the 2 deep is really good, but we don't have that proven elite linebacker.
Yeah.
Because Howard was really good last year, probably the most consistent linebacker up until his injury, but he wasn't elite, I wouldn't say. Which you probably need an elite linebacker to be considered the best linebacker group in the nation.
Yeah. Yeah, like I agree. It's like at the top, I don't know, but like looking at the first and second level, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, George, can't wait to beat Miami. Neither can I. I can't wait to beat LSU first.
Yeah. Let's just get through Long Island. Let's just get past Long Island in week 1.
Hey, let's just beat the blue team first.
Unironically though, let's get past USF because like they just have they have given teams annoying games in the last few years.
Yeah, that's true. Do they return their QB? Who is it?
Yeah, they do. He was kind of disappointing last year, but they do bring him back.
So, what,
Byron
is third
Brown.
year starting? Yeah, Byron Brown. I was thinking Barry and Brown. But yeah. So Byron Brown, third year starter, if I'm not mistaken. So
yes,
veteran guy, a veteran coaching staff now at USF. That could give us fits if like the talent maybe isn't as good as we think. But I don't suspect it will. I mean, if we're as good as I want us to be, it shouldn't. Yeah. Maybe a close game at halftime, then we pull away. Like how those close games you were talking about have been with like Miami last year and Alabama the past 2.
Yeah, none of them were close for 4 quarters, but they were close for like a quarter and a half.
Yep, I mean, it feels good thinking there's a possibility we could win every single game on our schedule. Hey, do you
in a vacuum.
Okay.
I don't think it's a very real possibility that Florida goes 12-0.
Well, yeah.
I think looking at every game individually, there's a shot. There's a decent shot.
Because I don't think I've had that since 2020. Where it's like, oh yeah, I believe we can beat Georgia. I haven't believed we can beat Georgia until this year, where I do believe we'll beat them.
You did pick us to beat Georgia, didn't you?
Yeah, okay. I picked us to lose to Texas and at Ole Miss.
That's right.
Which was a more rational because I didn't want to pick us to go 11-1. I mean, as we get through the season, we might do another post spring predictions for the season. We'll see how things look differently there.
Yeah, I think we definitely have room to go back and readdress our preseason predictions before we get to week 1.
All right. So do we want to nothing to say on linebackers? I mean, I'll say Caleb Rios, 6'6", 244. That's pretty nice right there. Big body there. Should be able to block pretty well. We'll see how much that really affects us. we already know how good these running backs are. I don't really know if there's much we need to talk about with the running back room. Is there anything you got to say?
I mean, it's just a really good room. I mean, I don't know if there's much I even need to see from them in spring. If they're healthy, it's going to be a really good room.
And that really the offensive line, 2 notes here. Enoch Wengoy, who was last season a freshman from England. Yeah, Manchester, England. 6'7", 333. I did not realize he was 6'7". That's something that really excites me. I've heard a little bit of talk about him. He won't really play much this year, but as the time goes on, that excites me a bit.
I mean, Billy does like his guys that are built like that, doesn't he? That's he has a very clear archetype with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it. Cam Waits is 6'8", and he's playing guard.
Yeah.
So,
Fletcher
Westfall is also 6'8".
Yeah, Billy wants his offensive lineman. Billy wants his offensive lineman to have the frame of mythical giants. That's what he's looking for in an offensive lineman.
And the I think I saw this. Marcus Maskell is moving to center. So a 6'4" center. I mean, if you look at Jake Slaughter, Jake Slaughter is also 6'4.5". I mean,
that's crazy. I didn't even realize that he was like that intense with it, even down to the center. That's funny.
So of scholarship players, can you guess who the shortest offensive lineman is?
Of anyone on scholarship?
Of offensive linemen.
I don't know. You just got to tell me.
Can you tell me who the highest rated recruit on Florida's offensive line is?
Wait, actually, I'm trying to think who it would be. Is it Najee Harris?
No. It's Jason Zandamela.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That does make sense.
And guess what? He's the shortest offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's just a funny coincidence because when you think of highly ranked offensive linemen, I mean, you think of those guys like a lot of players like Evan Neal from Alabama, who's like 6'7", 6'8". Those really tall, highly athletic offensive linemen. And you look at Florida, and it's like, oh yeah, you have a 6'7" 3-star. You have a 6'7" guy that was unranked. Oh, but we have a 6'2" 3/4, so it's still tall, obviously, and top 50 guy. I think that's just an outlier.
Well, I think they do also, I think in their project guys, they're like, okay, we can teach you the skills. We can't teach you being 6'8". You know what I mean? I think that's kind of their logic with that.
Absolutely. Is there anyone else or any position we've really missed on that you have anything to say about on the roster?
I mean, other than, I think we've addressed pretty much everything except specialists, which is, I don't know if there's a ton to address there.
I don't even see them on the roster. Oh, there we go. Kickers.
Yeah.
Long snappers. They exist. Trace Mack should be good.
Trace Mack should be good. Doman, seems fine. We'll see.
Seems fine. Have you seen any clips of Tommy Doman?
Not really. I've heard some people was it you who's saying that he has maybe some accuracy issues?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what I think I said that.
No, but I don't think I've seen any clips, certainly from spring, of him.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say on the special teams.
Yeah.
3 days of practice this week. Should have a lot of content to fill.
Sorry, real quick. It should be Harrison Bailey.
Yes.
It should be the quarterback transfer from most recently Louisville, right? That's where he was at?
Yeah.
Okay, because he'd been at 3 schools. Yeah, quarterback transfer from Louisville.
Oh, wait, I have some stuff here. Roberts has confidence that sophomore LJ, mostly an F. Ron Roberts has confidence that sophomore LJ McCray can thrive at the jack linebacker spot. He is expected to play more of that position in 2025. Called him an impact player with special flexibility to shine at either spot. He says they do a lot of the same things. So the transition hasn't been difficult for McCray. The one area they want to work on with him is dropping into coverage as a backer. When you put him on a tight end and things like that, he is a physical mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
Which, from that 5-star defensive lineman physical threat, is what you want to hear. Working on the dropping back in coverage. And, I mean, people argue you shouldn't drop back defensive linemen / edges in the coverage, but that's just nonsense.
I mean, I think it depends on the skill set, but I mean, yeah, I think just in general, this move, like playing this position, if you're just more naturally gifted, I think gives you a higher ceiling. So I think like they're putting more on his plate, but I think it's giving him the potential to be a really good player.
Ultra Gator here. I shook Fletcher Westfall's hands after last year's spring game. Probably the biggest hand I have ever seen up close. Well, maybe those hands can lock down Harold Perkins coming off the edge week 3. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. No, man, those offensive linemen are crazy. I remember when I was at Florida seeing, I think it was Fred Johnson in the dining hall one time. And that was just like that was probably the largest person I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's just unbelievable. Currently an NFL starting guard.
They feel like superhumans when you meet them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's hard to believe that, like, they also just have everyday regular lives. Like, they go to class, they pay bills and like stuff like that. It's interesting to see. You can catch Florida, the voice of college football, live on your favorite audio platforms such as Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. I will drop the link for our podcast on the Amazon on Amazon. If you're watching, you're driving to work, maybe going to bed, Spotify usually is a good way to listen to music, podcasts, anything like that. This is the link for it. If you want to watch or listen there, you can go ahead and do so. I think we just got word. This is not regarding Florida. I just saw this and thought it was pretty interesting. DK Metcalf going to Denver?
Is that happening?
I think it just got announced. Okay. I'm not sure if that's official, though, but...
I mean, the Seahawks are blowing it up. They cut Tyler Lockett. They traded Geno. Blowing it up on offense.
Steelers are trending on Twitter. Fields has DK and Pickens. See some Bears fans there. And Devontae Adams signed a 2-year, $46 million deal with the Rams.
Wow.
That was quick, too, because he just got released.
Well, I guess that means Cooper Kupp's a Jaguar then. I guess that's what that means.
Absolutely. I hope so. If he can stay healthy. If not, then no, I hope not.
Yeah. Well, James Gladstone should know. I mean, he'd have the insider scoop on Cooper Kupp's injury status, so.
Yeah, Metcalf is being traded to the Steelers, and he is signing a 5-year, $150 million contract.
He's getting traded to the Steelers. I thought you said the Broncos.
Oh, I did say the Broncos. Yeah, Steelers. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Wow.
I wonder what they're getting in return, but signing a 5-year, what did I say, $150 million contract. Wow. That's a really big contract. Yeah, thank you, Ultra. We're so happy that
appreciate it, man.
You watch. I hope that you've liked the stream. I hope everyone who's watched has liked it and subscribed. And maybe check out other Voice of College Football channels, especially the main channel. Do a great job there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching every week. We see a lot of the same names here. We appreciate you guys showing up every week.
Absolutely. Just quickly discussing it. The baseball team sweeps Harvard, right?
Very easily. All 3 by
very
run
easily. Yeah, okay. I know we beat them by run rule the previous 2 days. I know today's got off to like a little rocky start, but
it was a doubleheader. It was the second leg of a doubleheader yesterday.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, but they won 22-6 in 7 innings.
That's right. Yeah, I did see that. Okay. I mean, Harvard not really that great of a team, but
Harvard's 0-9 on the year.
So not that great of a team.
It doesn't mean anything, but it's fun.
Well, I do think it does mean something. We came off maybe a little bit of a slump. I mean, we lose game 3 to Miami.
Yeah.
Go to UCF. Now, UCF was starting their number 1 pitcher against us. We were starting our backups basically due to injuries. Kyle Jones.
Not even our normal midweek midweek starter.
Because we had to play him against Miami. So UCF really, they gave it their Super Bowl chance. Their Super Bowl to beat us. I saw we haven't beat UCF in baseball since 2017.
Yeah, they've had a long win streak against us because it's always midweek games.
Yeah.
I will say also one positive from this week. Pierce Coppola did not start on. That's not the positive, but he did not start on Saturday because he's out with an injury. We'll see how long that is. But Aiden King, freshman, started really his place, was really good, really promising. So looks like if this is maybe an extended thing with Pierce Coppola, who has a long kind of storied injury history, Aiden King looks like he's maybe ready to go as a weekend guy. So that's encouraging.
Which I think another really good thing about that is when we do, hopefully, I assume we're going to get Coppola back. We're going to have 4 starters. I mean, I assume we'll throw King or whoever will throw as the midweek starter when we have midweek games. I mean, it's really good to have that pitching rotation. We saw it when Coppola got injured and we played that UCF game. How many runs did UCF get on us? Like 16?
I think it was like 30. I think it was like 13-3, I think was the final.
13-3.
Like that.
Yeah, that sounds right. But if you have that 4th pitcher, that not only helps you during the regular season, but help us go through and hopefully win the College World Series.
Yeah, it's a necessity. You can't just roll with 3 good weekend guys and not have anyone else you trust in the postseason. You need those guys. So having all 4 of those guys able to start in the postseason would be huge.
Absolutely. George opening up the segment perfectly. It's kind of nice having a good basketball team to help us get through the off season in football. I mean, now that you bring it up, we're going to talk about the Gators SEC tournament path. The Gators finished the weekend off, get a huge 19-point win over Ole Miss, an Ole Miss team that just came off a 2-point win, but near buzzer beater win against Tennessee. I mean, this is a good Ole Miss team, and we just beat them by 19. Like, we casually beat them. Like, it looks like we were kind of out there. We were taking some bad shots in the first half, maybe locked it down a little bit more in the second half. But it kind of looked like the guys just went out there to have fun in their senior night, especially the 3 guards of Richard, Clayton, and Martin. Seeing them playing their last game in Gainesville, the Aztec Arena, it felt special. We saw all 3 of them get 10+ points in that game. They all had their moment. I mean, Clayton went for 23 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. He didn't even score in the final 10 minutes of the game. I think he hit a 3 with like 12 minutes left and didn't score the rest of the game, which is a lot of what Clayton has done throughout the season in these games where we're up a copious amount, where he just kind of puts the game to rest, and then he's just like, yeah, I'll let everyone else do their thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I think, beating an Ole Miss team that had some momentum, really impressive. I mean, Florida's been so good at home this year. Like, aside from that Missouri loss, Florida has just been a machine at home. I mean, none of these games have even been like, certainly in SEC play, have even been like particularly competitive in Gainesville. So hopefully that magic follows them to neutral sites when they get to the tournament. But I mean, really nice. Like, to me, it said a lot because you get you have the A&M win, you have the win against Alabama on the road, which, you won that game pretty thoroughly, but it was still just, a tough game. You really had to kind of ride that one out with them hitting some shots to make it close at the end. And then to come back and like, you basically have secured a number 1 seed, assuming you just don't lose at home in this last game. Like, that is like setting up for a trap pretty easily. And they just didn't fall into it. I mean, like you said, a little bit of a slow start, kind of struggled to pull away in the first half, but not really a competitive game for the vast majority of the second half.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a quick stat here. And I think oh, okay. So outside the Missouri game, Florida only has 1 home game where they won by less than 15 points.
I was gonna ask if any of the home wins have been by single digits. I didn't think so.
No, and actually, I say that. I mean, outside of that Missouri game, we only had 1 game where we didn't win by more than 18 points, and it's when we beat Vanderbilt by 11. I mean, that was the first game we were playing without Walter Clayton.
And the Missouri game even was like a 19-point comeback or something ridiculous?
Yeah, Missouri got up by 19 and we lost by 1.
Okay, yeah.
You know what actually does stink, though? Kind of sucks. Florida, I mean, maybe it wouldn't have happened the same way. A 1-point loss to Missouri or getting in a 26-point deficit to Georgia is really, or Kentucky having a historic night shooting the ball at home is really the difference between us winning the SEC, being the number 1 seed, because we would have had the tiebreaker over Auburn. Now, maybe Auburn plays differently in the final 2 games. I would bet if they were fully trying, they would have beat A&M.
At least one of those two, they would. I don't think they lose both of those games if they hadn't already locked it up. Probably. At least that's what I'm telling myself to hope.
Yeah, I do think Bama outplayed Auburn. I think Auburn was trying to win that game against Bama.
Sure,
that's a given. I mean, it was a rivalry game.
Yeah,
the A&M one, I give you the pass, but the rivalry game against Bama, where you have your best player go for 34 points, Janai Broom I think went for 34. They definitely did really try to win that game. And then you have
they still could have easily won that game. I mean, they it took a buzzer beater in overtime. So yeah.
Exactly. We have had a chance to be every team we played this year. Even if you count the games we lost, I mean, Tennessee game we lost by 20. We beat Tennessee by 30 earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. So when you just word it like every team, we did beat them. So
and that's the only game. That's the only game too that like Florida didn't have a chance. Like all the other losses outside. I mean, that one, that was just never going to happen on that night. But like, like nothing else was even close to being that level of like out of hand.
Absolutely. So now we look at the SEC tournament bracket. Florida is the 2 seed. We'll either face Missouri, LSU, or Mississippi State. Mississippi State to 10, LSU to 15, Missouri to 7. I think this bracket match goes kind of beautifully for the Gators because two of our 4 losses were to Tennessee, Georgia, teams that we also beat once earlier in the year. You look at those next games, Missouri, one of the teams that beat us that we haven't got a revenge against. If Missouri ends up beating the winner of LSU, Mississippi State, I'd bet Mississippi State. Not a guarantee, though.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's Missouri, though, that ends up winning that 3 teams right there. Get a revenge against Missouri because this is a Missouri team that's been ice cold as of late.
Yeah.
Now, if they get a win over a Mississippi State or LSU, it could start getting them back on track. But it's also like we're playing like maybe the best team in the country right now. And even if Missouri is playing at their peak of like a top 12 team, that is a team that Florida should still beat in a neutral site setting.
Yeah, I think I would say this too about if you end up playing Missouri in that opening game.
Oh.
I mean, I don't think what's up,
Rob. Exactly what I was just saying with how I like our bracket. Because he was saying when we've had a chance to beat every team, Missouri's in our bracket, and Kentucky is the 6th seed. They'll play 3 seed Bama if they end up winning their matchup between. Who do they play? I can't remember who Kentucky would play.
Bama,
Georgia. Kentucky plays the winner
of
Georgia and Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Georgia's hot, but still, I hope we do end up playing Missouri and Kentucky and getting our revenge.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's nice about being able to get, I mean, if drawing either of those teams being able to get revenge is like, I really don't think there's anything Florida could do at this point to not be a number 1 seed in the tournament. I think they should be fine. In the event that, say, Michigan State goes on a crazy run and wins the Big Ten tournament and will then have like 12 straight quad 1 wins or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
If in the event something like that happens, would it be nice that Florida can say, hey, we have now avenged 2 of our 4 losses or whatever? Yeah, I think that would be pretty nice to be able to say if it really came down to it, but I don't think it will, to be honest.
So I saw the stat that Duke, Houston, and Auburn are all 3 in the top 10 of all-time net ratings. I mean, this goes back to 1997 when not net ratings, sorry, KenPom ratings.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this goes back to 1997 when KenPom did ratings. I mean, you have 3 teams in a 1997, so 28
18 years or 8 or 20. Yeah, sorry, 28.
28-year period. You have 3 of the top 10 teams in the same season, and Florida, I think, is also in the top 15. I mean, This is just such an unlucky year for us to be a powerhouse. Like any other year, we would be at least number 2, probably number 1.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's just really strong year. I mean, I will say, like, little suspect. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I know like Auburn. It's like, I mean, I understand like what I was just saying about they've already locked up the SEC. They've already locked up the #1 overall seed. So they literally are not really playing for anything right now. But I still don't love entering the tournament like without momentum. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that doesn't bode very well, especially considering like Auburn and Bruce Pearl have kind of had an issue with getting got earlier than they should in the tournament.
Yeah. I think what I was thinking when you were about to say some teams entering without momentum, I think you have teams, Auburn, they're lost the last 2 games. Mm-hmm. We did beat them at Auburn when they were playing at their best, so we know we can beat them. But then you also look at Duke and Houston. Houston's low-key been struggling a little bit. Like, they went 19-1, I think, in the Big 12, which is phenomenal. I mean, that's as good as you can ask for. But I'm not really as sold on this Houston team. Houston basketball, when you look it up here, they go to Baylor and win by 4 points. I mean, Baylor's a team that might be playing in Dayton. This is not a Baylor team that's locked into the term. I mean, they should be in like 90+% chance they're in, but they're not a team that's going to be a high seed. They're going to be a 10, maybe an 11 seed in the NCAA tournament. And going to there, only winning by 4, then you host a Kansas team that's just been awful over the past month. And, I mean, they won by 6, so not even a close amount. But that was a game that had been back and forth in the second half. I mean, they beat Cincinnati by 9. They play a good Texas Tech team and win that game by 8. But I do think over this past couple weeks and maybe the Big 12 tournament will see it as well. I don't know if this Houston team is as good as metrics say they are.
I'm not necessarily convinced either, just because I'm not sure I love the Big 12 this year, just in general. I think the Big 12 is just not that great, like relative to where it's been. I mean, I think they're locked into I think they're pretty much locked into being a higher seed, like higher in the 1 seed list than Florida is, though, just from the way they're viewed.
I think the only way Houston isn't a 1 seed is if they lose. Then you probably need Michigan. They lose in round 1 or round 3 of the Big 12, whatever the bye structure works there. They lose their first game in the Big 12 tournament, and then you have Alabama and Florida. I mean, if we do end up playing each other, the winner is probably going to be a 1 seed over Houston. The loser might not be. We'll see. I mean, we don't really know. And then maybe like Michigan State does what you talked about and just isn't on that 12, 13 game win streak, including winning the Big 10. So that's definitely a possibility. But yeah, I doubt Houston isn't a 1 seed at this point.
Yeah. And I think and maybe I'm being too overreactive to how they handled Florida seeding last year because it bothered me at the time. But I just don't think they care about these tournaments. Like, I don't think these tournaments really factor into how they set up their bracket and their seeding. Like, I feel like barring bid stealers, they pretty much have this thing ready to go going into championships, like going into like the last couple of days of the tournament. You know what I mean?
I hope so, because I would love to just have that 1 seed locked in, not even need to win. But I don't know. It just feels like the SEC is so good this year that they're just going to be watching it so intently. And I mean, if you have Alabama and Florida playing each other and it's that close, like Florida's ahead, but Alabama isn't that far behind and Alabama does win, I mean, we could lose that 1 seed. I wouldn't be shocked.
I guess I wouldn't be shocked either. But again, it's just like after watching Florida do the reverse of that, go on that run last year and have it literally not improve the projected seeding at all, not even by like a single line. I'm just like, I'm not sure they care about these. I mean, I will see. I mean, we'll find out. I could be wrong, and maybe that was just how they treated it last year.
Ultra Gator here saying an SEC team definitely wins the Natty this year. We definitely have, of any conference, we have the best shot easily. Well,
statistically, yeah. I mean, we're going to have 13 teams in the tournament.
Yeah, but I mean, I also look at the title favorites. Like the title favorites right now, Houston and Duke. I mean, Auburn and Duke are probably 1A and 1B at this point. Although you can question Duke because they played an easier schedule, but they have just been dominant. So I'm not going to say Duke's overrated until they prove to be overrated at this point.
And we know they have the star power too. Like we know they have the star power and the talent on the roster. Like that's not a question.
Actually, let me just make this simple. 4 of the top 6 teams right now in most bracketologies are SEC teams. That an SEC team should win the Natty this year. We should at least get multiple teams in the Final Four. I mean, anything can happen in March. So, I mean, Auburn lost to a 13-seeded Yale last year. So it's like anything can happen.
Yeah.
And again, what George is saying here, 13 teams in the tourney. Hopefully it's Auburn or Florida. I like Auburn too because I lived there. Oh, I mean, that's cool. I'm going to hope Florida.
My mom went to Auburn, George. So my mom went to Auburn. So I grew up not having the animosity toward them that I have towards like pretty much every other SEC fan base.
And what Rob is saying, conference tournaments doesn't mean anything for seeding 1-3. I hope so, but this is the year they're going to change everything, of course.
Well, maybe we'll just find out if it all really is a grand conspiracy against the Florida Gators. Maybe they just change their philosophy each year to see what can do the maximum negative impact for Florida.
Yeah. All right. Let's make a quick SEC tournament pick, I guess. Okay. So, who do you have Florida playing? Do you have Missouri, Mississippi State, or LSU?
I'm kind of inclined to say Mississippi State. I feel like Missouri is kind of slumping coming into this tournament. And I like Mississippi State. I mean, they've had some bad ones too. I mean, they lost to Texas, which was pretty bad, which was pretty rough.
I'm kind of inclined by us.
I will say I don't really think it matters because I do think Florida wins this first game no matter who it's playing.
I'm going to say Missouri wins, but that's just because I want the rematch victory over Missouri. Mm-hmm. But yeah, give me the Gators to advance to the semifinals.
Yep.
Oh my God.
That's the joy of the double bye, man. We haven't had it in 8 years.
Oh man, this feels nice. All right. Who do you have Florida of? Alabama, Kentucky, Georgia, or Oklahoma?
Who
do you have us facing?
It's hard to.
I'll go first.
You can go. Yeah, go ahead.
Time to think about it. Georgia's really hot right now. Who's also a low key kind of sizzling right now? Kentucky.
Yeah,
they just had a really dominant performance against Missouri this past weekend. I'm gonna take Kentucky to beat Bama. I think it's gonna be a shootout of a game. Otega-Oweh is playing really good, so give me Kentucky to advance to face us, and give me the Gators in the rematch, baby.
Okay. I hate to pick chalk here, but I didn't pick chalk for the first one, so I walked away from that Alabama game really impressed with Alabama personally. I thought they looked really good. And I think even though I do agree, Georgia and Kentucky playing really good basketball right now, I think any of those hypothetical matchups would be really interesting in the lead up. I will say we get another Florida Alabama game though.
Mm-hmm. I'll say Bama. I mean, obviously Auburn and Florida should have easier paths as higher seeds. I will say Alabama got a pretty unlucky path, because you have maybe two of the hotter teams in the SEC, with Georgia, who's knocked off 4 straight, including us, and Kentucky is starting to get a bit more healthy. They're not going to have Jackson Robinson for the season, so that's a big loss for them. But you have Otega-Oweh, who's played a really good basketball. Honestly, Otega-Oweh might be the most underrated player in the SEC. I think he's really good, and it's I don't know if he's going to be a first-teamer. But I feel like in most years, Otega-Oweh would be a first-team All-SEC player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
who do you have?
I have us. over Kentucky.
Yeah, I'll go with us over Bama too, even though that would very much scare me having to play them again in the SEC tournament. I still think I look back at that the rebounding differential, and that to me just tells me that that's a bad matchup for them against us. So I do think I'd probably put my money on it playing out like that again.
That's a fair point. So I saw an interesting stat out there. When you look at our side of the region, our 4 teams of us, Missouri, Kentucky, and Alabama, you have 4 of the top 15 offenses in college basketball. But then you look at the other side, where you have Ole Miss, Auburn, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. I think it was 4 of the top 15 defenses in college basketball. So I've seen 2 different takes on this. I've seen take A, Auburn or Tennessee and Texas A&M especially, they're going to be playing extremely physical matchups, defensive battles that are going to wear you down. And then whichever one of those 2, likely could be Vanderbilt, they could sneak up in there. Play Auburn, they're going to try to wear Auburn down as well. Auburn also going to maybe play Arkansas. I think Arkansas beats Ole Miss. And I think Arkansas has been a really good defensive team as well. I think that could also slow down Auburn, make them a little, whoever it is going into the championship game, more tired. I've also seen the take that you have this bottom region, the 2-seed region, where you're going to have these teams that are playing high-flying games. They're going to go so fast that they tire each other out like that. So it's two different takes of exhausting the other teams out, which team is going to have the tougher games. I tend to lean with the defensive games being a bit more tougher, especially when you look at Tennessee and Texas A&M. They play such a physical brand of basketball. I think our guards can go forever. I see Walter Clayton play 40 minutes and have 20-point games. I can see Will Richard having those games and Elijah Martin. I believe that, and we have the depth to back it up as well, that we're going to be less wore out going into that championship game than whoever we face in that championship game, which I will say is Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say we beat them earlier in the year. It's hard to beat a team twice. Look at two of our losses were the teams we played once in the year earlier. I think that's something I didn't even think about until just now. But still, I also think you have Micah Hanglotton, where this is a rematch of last year. This is a game where Micah suffered that brutal injury. I think he's going to have a really good game and kind of try to lead the locker room. If he won't be down at all going into an SEC championship game, we're going to be fired up. I think Micah's going to fire him up just a little bit more. I think we win the SEC championship. The SEC championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could easily see that. I agree with you. I think it's going to be Auburn. I think Auburn, I mean, maybe these last two games have tell us a different story, but I mean, to me, like, Auburn didn't play very well against the Gators. And when they had played well prior to these last two games, I think they looked pretty unbeatable.
Well,
I'm not saying Florida didn't play
I say this real quick? Yeah. Even before those two losses, the week prior, they had two really close home games against Georgia and Arkansas. I don't think Auburn's looked that good in like a month.
That is true. That is true. That's a good point. And I mean, I think the Micah angle is important. I mean, I think that's, important to remember. I guess because I had also thought about the fact that two of our four losses are to teams we had already beaten earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about how we had sort of the same exact thing happen last year where we played Auburn, like dominated them in the first game. And then it was just the complete reverse in the second. I don't think it's the complete reverse in the sense that Florida gets dominated. Like, I think this would be an incredible game. Mm-hmm. I probably would give the slight edge to Auburn in it, though, to be honest with you.
I honestly think that Florida right now is the best team in the country. I think our guards are playing as well or better than any other guard group in the country. I think Alex Condon's been playing like the best. Janai Broom's probably still, Janai Broom just came off 33, 34 points, whatever it was, against Alabama. But you have Condon coming off the 27 and 10, and then the 17 and 15 game last night. I mean, we saw it in the first matchup. Condon he won the matchup of Condon versus Broom. And I could see him winning that again. I think the physicality and rebounding for Florida kind of just beats in this Auburn team that, look at Chad Baker-Mazara and Janai Broom. They're guys that get frustrated pretty easily, especially when they play teams that are so physical. And if the refs allow that physicality, it kind of just beats on them. I think we are just the best team in the country, and I think we match up pretty well against Auburn.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with a lot of that. I just think that, I kind of worry about a couple things. First of all, I think that we might be the best team in the country when we're not shooting ourselves in the foot, doing things like having stupid turnovers, taking bad shots. I do just worry that, against a team like Auburn, if we just have one of those games where we come out shooting pretty cold and we're just missing open shots, we might get down to a degree that we're just not really able to get out of and might just be fighting to keep it at a 10-point margin for that's kind of the way I could see a loss playing out there.
I can also see that we've seen us get down early against we've got out early against teams. We've got down early against teams. If a team does get down, say 15, 20 points in this first half, they're not going to worry too much because both of us, Auburn will have the number one seed already locked up. Mm-hmm. If we win this game, we'll have if we're in the championship, we will have a 1 seed locked up. So if you get down early, you're probably just gonna you could probably sit. We're not gonna try as hard to come back as we would if it were, say, a regular season game or NCAA tournament game. So
I think that's probably what happened last year.
Yeah, that probably is what happened last year. And then they have the back of their mind Micah Hanglotton of what happened to him. So it could be a good or bad thing that Micah got injured in this game last year when you're looking at the mentality going into this game.
I totally do get that. Like, I mean, I think you will not see Florida come out like flat like they did in that game last year.
Well, we didn't even come out flat. I believe the score was like 32-26 with like 8 minutes in the first half. So it was a close game. I was looking at some highlights and saw that. So we kept it close, but then just missing a center really allowed Auburn to just pull away.
And that hurt us that hurt us a lot in the tournament game too. Like that team without Micah was just not even close to the same.
No. I mean, Ultra, if we hit our 3 throws, we'll be in every game that we want to be in. Our bench is so good.
Yeah. I think Florida will be in every game this week in Nashville. I don't think there's going to be like, I don't think Missouri is just going to come out and win by 20 or whatever. Like, I do not see that happening.
Although if Missouri gets an early lead on us, do you think we'll kind of wrap things up and just get prepared for the tournament? Or do you think the fact that they beat us earlier in the year, we want the revenge?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like, I don't know. Because I feel like how seriously you take the tournament in a situation like Florida's in right now is kind of a coach by coach thing. Like, I certainly think there are coaches who are like, we'll take it or leave it as far as conference tournament. If we get out early and we go home and get more rest, so be it. I'm not sure that's Todd, though. It doesn't necessarily seem like Todd to me. Todd's pretty aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a very outward personality guy when it comes to games. I mean, we were up 20 points, and he was going off on the refs last night against Ole Miss. Broom still got. I don't think he didn't really get what he wanted inside. I mean, he really didn't. I mean, they can score inside. I think he finished like 15 or 16, but he had like 10 or like 7 or so in the final like 5 minutes or something.
Okay. Yeah, he was 8 of 19 for 18 points.
And how many of those 18
gave
points
up 22 to Miles Kelly?
And how many of those 18 points were in like the final 10 minutes when Florida was already up by 20?
That I'm not sure if I can tell you.
I can figure it out. Take me a second though.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just looking at the ESPN stats right now, and they don't have. I mean, I'm looking at the play-by-play. I could like count it up and do the math, but yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely some at the end. I mean, I don't think it's like a matchup that I worry about with Condon, but like, I mean, I do think when we've played teams that are really good up front, we haven't necessarily dominated on the inside the way we do against some other teams.
He scored 9 points after Florida got up by 20 points.
Okay.
In the final 10 minutes of that game. So, I mean, those are relevant points. You've seen teams make those comebacks.
But what was the closest they got it to?
I believe they got to like 8. He missed a bunch of money. That's just physicality by Condon. That's good defense.
It looks like, I mean, the final score was 9, but I don't see them ever getting it closer than 9. I think 9 was the closest it ever got. Oh, no, sorry. You're right. They did get it down to 8.
Because I think they got it to 8, and then Thomas Houck hit the offensive rebound back to Aberdeen for a 3. Is that when that happened?
Or actually, wait, no, sorry. I just was counting this wrong. I don't ever see it getting down to 8, but
okay, maybe it was 9. I mean, that's great. Ooh, anything else you want to? So you have Auburn winning the SEC tournament over Florida?
Yeah, I think I will. I mean, like I and that's like a very much like slightly more than 50% kind of pick. Like I think Florida has a really good chance to win the SEC. I don't know how competitive we're going to be in these games. And I mean, the same is true for Alabama or for Auburn, you know, to a lesser extent, like Alabama and Tennessee. If we end up playing them, you know, I think I see Florida at least winning its first game. I think beyond that, I kind of get a little bit more, I could kind of see anything happening there.
I think something interesting that I haven't heard many people talk about, the potential Tennessee-Auburn rematch. Auburn only won 51-49.
Yeah.
That was a really close game that Tennessee could have won.
Yeah, that was a good game. At Auburn, too.
That could be a game that wears them down even more. Like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But do you have anything else you want to say on basketball?
No, I mean, not really. It's just, it feels fun to go into this. It's like a weird feeling coming into this tournament with nothing really at stake, because for most of the Mike White era, it was almost like we had to win this tournament to get, or, you know, or at least either was
win
like
a
we
game
were
or
on the
two.
bubble, or like felt needed to win a game or two to feel good, or like even there was like a couple of years where we just didn't make the tournament at all and, you know, had to make it to feel good. Or the, you know, last year of Mike White, first year of Todd, was only chance of getting in was winning the tournament.
Yep.
It's kind of weird to go into this. And last year, you know, we didn't feel, I mean, we were pretty good about not being on the bubble, but like, you know, we didn't love our seeding. We were hoping we could bump that
Get
up,
to a
which didn't
5.
happen.
No,
which obviously did not happen. But I mean, this is the first time going into a tournament where it's like, I mean, I'd love to see the Gators make a run, but it really doesn't matter. Like, it's weird to be going into the SEC tournament and I'm already just thinking about who Florida's going to play in the round of 32.
Hoping we're a 1 seed. I'm not going to be sad for a 2 seed though.
I mean, I think you could, it's just like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like the field is so good this year. Like, even if you're a 1 seed, you're drawing like the 2-time defending champions or someone of that caliber in the second round. It's just, there's no easy path. It's, you know, whoever wins the national title this year is going to be very battle tested.
Yeah, don't underrate the 16 seed Omaha, who secured their ticket yesterday by winning their semifinals game because they're playing St. Francis.
Oh, that's right, St. Thomas.
At 9 o'clock, St. Thomas.
Which, okay, that sucks, by the way. I hate that rule. Like, I understand the transition rules, but the point of the transition... Sorry, I'm just going to rant on a soapbox for a minute.
You're okay. You're okay.
The point of the transition rules is to make it so that you're not... Like, first of all, it's to make it so that teams don't, like, willy-nilly move up when they're not ready to. Like, it's trying to discourage teams that aren't, like, financially viable to move up to the higher levels to do it. So, like, you can't win anything for a couple of years. But if you come up and you, like... Because I think St. Thomas is, like, 25-7 or something like that. Like, they have, like, a really good mid-major record. It's like, if you're that good and you win your conference tournament, you should be in the NCAA tournament. That's a stupid rule. I hate it. It's the same for bowl eligibility with, like, James Madison not being in the playoff race last year or 2023. Yeah. I hate it. I hate that rule. If you're that good as a transition program, you should be eligible.
St. Thomas was 24-9. They were second in the conference. I mean, they were second in the conference to Omaha. Omaha still is going to be favored. They went 21-12 and 13-3 in conference. Omaha did. Yeah. So, I mean, it does suck that that rule is in place, but congrats to Omaha. I mean, what I heard, I was listening last night, Phil 68, that Omaha locker room still locked in to secure the conference tournament title.
Do you see the beat the trash? Do you see the beat the trash can video?
I did not.
They literally brought, like, after they won their semifinal game, they like brought a trash can and we're like doing the thing that Jakeem did with the belt, but they were doing it with towels in the trash can.
That's pretty funny. All right, let me get into some stuff real quick. Here. Get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the voice of college football. See what our partner Win Agency has to say about its sponsorship experience with us. Let's discuss how you also can reach your target market. Contact us at sponsorships@vocfb.com today. I'll post a link in the chat. Oh, that's the private base. Or the email address. Sorry, not the link, but go. All right. Got through that. Is there anything Florida or anything you want to talk about related we haven't really mentioned in this show?
Yeah, Rob literally just brought it up. One thing we wanted to touch on before we got out of here.
Forgot about that.
Ooh, and it's lightning outside my window. Burrows, I assume is who you're talking about.
Yep. Okay. Naeem Burrows out of nowhere last night committed to Clemson. We talked about it last week as a guy that I feel confident ends up at Florida. Got a crystal ball for him in the previous month, and this kind of just came out of nowhere. I think this is less to do with Florida and Billy Napier missing on a guy, like people who don't like him will stay. This is more Clemson kind of just did something last night. They got 2 4-star wide receiver commits. They got a high 3-star offensive lineman that committed a couple hours before we went on air. And they got projections to land 3 4-star borderline offensive linemen out of Jackson or Tampa, Cannon Pickett, who's a Miami legacy. So I think Clemson just had a big recruiting weekend. Whether it's money, connection, Clemson, I don't really know too much inside. Dabo, guys who commit to Clemson end up usually staying with Clemson, which is one thing that does kind of suck because Burrows is a guy I still want us to pursue and for us to land, which is still definitely possible. But it does suck a guy that is in the top 60 that I felt confident that we had a really good chance at landing, kind of just commits on the dime. It's a very similar to when TJ Moore committed to Clemson a couple years ago, where he was a Florida lean. I was more confident in Burrows than I was in Moore, but Moore was a guy Florida really wanted, and we still want. Talk about him possibly being a guy we try to tamper with to get the transfer to Florida. But yeah, exactly, TJ Moore all over again. I will say Moore is 6'3", Burrow's 5'11", but we'll be fine at 5'11" type of receivers. But Burrow's again highly rated, a guy in our backyard from Jacksonville, out of Bowles High School. You talked about it. Mac Jones is from Bowles, as well as who was the recent play? Jack Fiber. Yep. Maybe we should stay away from Bowles.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a bummer for me. I mean, I love when the Gators get Jack's kids. It just makes me happy. But it's not. I mean, it's just always a bummer when a guy that like all the recruiting guys are putting in predictions for, you don't land him. I mean, but I will just say this, like my general opinion on these things is I don't get too mad or too happy about anything recruiting, 9 months before early signing day. And I'll keep consistent in that here. A lot of time left to build out this class. It's not the end of the world.
Exactly. And wide receiver is a position that we just recruited so good in this past class. And there's so many talented guys that we have a really good chance at landing in this class anyways. And we can still get Burrows. It's only March 9th. We haven't even had Selection Sunday yet. And Rob, really good question here. Who do you think our next commit will be? Not guaranteed, but we did have a little prepare for Malik Morris. Yeah, I watched
there was
on him.
That one would pop while we were live tonight, but obviously did not.
Yeah, I mean, 4-star. He's a 4-star linebacker. I'm getting his 2 for 7 up now. Out of Lakeland, so another local kid. He's the 192nd ranked player in the composite. I think he had a pretty big jump in this previous cycle or in this in recent times. Oh, actually, no. Okay, I guess I thought he was ranked lower.
He's actually gone down. He's gone down on 2.
Yeah, I was just about to say he went down a spot or 2 or 3. But yeah, top 200 linebacker. We obviously had just landed. His name just escaped me. We just landed Isaiah Williams. Yeah. So another linebacker. I won't get too much into Morris because I'll save that for hopefully when he commits.
Yeah, hopefully when it actually happens.
But that's who I expect the next commitment will be. We did have a pretty big recruiting weekend this past week. I don't have the name of the players who off the top of my head, but I would suspect we see a commitment or two over the. I mean, we just got Williams this past week, but we'll probably get a commitment or two in the next couple weeks, if I'm not mistaken there.
Yeah, this is kind of about the time where you start kind of getting the baseline guys in your next class. Because Florida still only has three 2026 commits.
Yeah, we have 3. We have Isaiah Williams, Will Griffin, and Devin Jackson. All 3 from Florida. So it's kind of like how we were talking about if we can get back to that class. Oh, no, sorry. That was a previous class before 2024. So we had a 2023 class. Yeah, I was in a 2023 class. Some names on the visit that were on visits, like Jake Krull, 4-star edge rusher, someone I really want. Another name to maybe look out for. I don't know how to pronounce this, but Ganaivar Carr. He's a 4-star offensive lineman out of IMG. He's originally from where is he from? Maybe he's from the north, I'm pretty sure, but transferred to IMG Academy. Doesn't really worry about travel, but he is someone, a 4-star offensive lineman, would be a really good get. Someone that could also be a next name to watch out for to commit if things go our way.
Yeah, not a ton for me to add there. I'll just once again point out that I think you're going to see. I think if Florida has the year that we both think they can, you're going to see that momentum really pick up once that becomes clear. in season. But that doesn't mean they can't go into the season with some momentum as well.
Yeah, I think we're also going to see a lot of offensive line recruitment because of the fact that we're going to be losing 5, maybe 6 offensive linemen. Yeah. I can't figure out where Carr is from. I really wanted to figure this out before we go off the air. But
sorry, what's his first name?
G'_NIVRE Carr.
This says he's from Ocala.
Oh, maybe he is from. No, you're right. He is from Ocala. I'm thinking of somebody else who's from like the north but transferred. So yeah, from Ocala. So even closer than Bradenton is.
Yeah.
So, right up the road from me. You've probably driven on the same street many times before. All right. Do you have anything else you want to add on here?
No, not really. I think that kind of about covers it. We'll just have to see. I mean, Florida. I mean, they're being they're having busy recruiting weekends.
They are.
It's certainly not a legwork problem. I guess I'll say that.
Absolutely not. I mean, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different players on campus yesterday. Maybe still some of those guys are still here today, which is maybe they're waiting to get home for the week to commit. So maybe that's why they didn't commit today. With that being said, I want to make sure everyone who's watching, make sure you guys drop a like. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Live next Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern. The NCAA bracket gets revealed at 6 o'clock. Hopefully, the whole bracket should be revealed by 7, so we can talk about the Gators' path towards a national championship, hopefully. And 3 days of spring practice that we're going to get more and more news from, see who's developing more. And that being said, hope to see you next week. And as always, go Gators.